Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote, tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika. Chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
You are watching us live here at Humanist TV Africa. Humanist TV Africa is a registered charity organization that basically does media work to empower our people, promote human rights, and of course promote development in the most hard-to-reach areas, but of course empower our people as we empower each other. My name is Katum Kasa, and the studio is Dennis Bongole to do the production of the show. And I want to remind you to please subscribe to Humanist TV Africa. Our handle is right there, Humanist TV Africa. We are on Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, and we have the website. And of course, on other platforms, we are Humanist TV Africa. Please look for us, search us, like, share, and comment. Our role, among others, is to promote education, to inform, to empower, to entertain, but of course to educate our viewers. We are the only media network in Africa that openly talk about issues that others fear to talk about. We promote equal rights, equity, and equality as a non-governmental organization registered to do this work. Today, we are handling yet another important topic, country profiles. And we are bringing to you a country in the Horn of Africa known as Eritrea. It's one of the smallest countries in Africa, the 22nd smallest country in Africa, one of those smallest countries, but very beautiful at the Horn of Africa, with only 3.7 million people, not even 4 million people, but about 3.7 million million Eritreans live in this country. It's a country with a lot of history, a country with struggle, a country that has fought aggression, especially a country that has resisted Ethiopians from taking it over. It has been a country of battle and war. Come with me as we talk about Eritrea. Have a look at the map. Now, the map of Eritrea right there is a very interesting map. You can see the main colors there, blue and green, and of course red. It's a country of productivity. Remember, when you see that symbol there, it's a symbol of life and food. Now, Ethiopia took over Eritrea for a long time, and Eritrea has been fighting back. Now, this map of Eritrea shows you how beautiful Eritrea is, even on the map of the world. Now, Eritrea is a very beautiful East African country that is bordered by Sudan, Djibouti, and Ethiopia. Now, when you look at this map shows you where Eritrea is Look at Eritrea. Ethiopia is right there in the middle, right there, right there, right there, at the extreme down part of it. There's Djibouti, there is Yemen far away, and of course there's the Red Sea. Now the Red Sea makes Eritrea a very important destination for the rest of the world. The Red Sea connects Eritrea to the rest of the world, and this one makes it a stronger economy in terms of tourism, in terms of a gateway to the rest of the world. Remember that Eritrea was once called Madre Baha, which means land of the sea. Why? Because of the Red Sea right there. And of course, the term Eritrea is derived from the Greek term Senasi Erastus, which can be translated to mean Red Sea. Eritrea, the capital state is Asmara. The president is Isaias Afwerki, and of course the currency is Eritrean Nakfa. The area of Eritrea is 117,600 square kilometers, of course. And of course the capital Asmara, and of course the map of Eritrea right there shows you how beautiful this country is. You're going to give me a minute right there. Dennis, I'll be explaining a few things right without moving this image here now. In terms of resources, Eritrea is a rich country in terms of resources. Remember, many African countries are rich in terms of minerals, but are poor in terms of income. Now, let me tell you about Eritrea's resources. You may be surprised. Eritrea has a small population, remember, and it has some of the best resources in the world. Now, listen to this. Eritrea has minerals such as copper. If you look at that map, Kingdom, it has copper, it has potash, zinc, oil, natural gas, cement, gypsum, granite, marble, ceramics, limestone, and iron ore. All those things are in Eritrea. Apart from that, Eritrea has high quality diamonds at a place called Batuli Local Miners Community. One of the best diamonds can be got in Eritrea. But also, Eritrea has a collection of other minerals. Of course, I talked about gold, zinc, copper, oil, potash, limestone, gypsum, iron ore, and natural gas. Eritrea has all these minerals. And in the green belt, Eritrea's green belt hosts all these base metals, we call them base metals, that cover about 70% of the country. 70% of the country is covered by base metal. No wonder Ethiopia always wants to take over Eritrea. Ethiopia is selfish. They look at Eritrea's resources and they want to take them over. Now, Eritrea has also an oil refinery, which can be found in a place called Asabo. There are also scattered depots of agnite coal around the area of Asab. So Eritrea even has oil resources, gold, copper, diamonds, but still Eritrea is considered as a poor country in terms of people having cash in their pockets. Let us move on and see other images. I've given you a brief of the economy of Eritrea. Now here, I want to show you who is in Eritrea. Remember, we have Ethiopia near Eritrea. There are many tribes in Ethiopia that can be found in Eritrea. Look at that map. The Afar, the Elon, Hadrab, Kunama, Hana, Nara, Rashaida, Saho, Tigray, and Tigrinya. Some of the regions of Ethiopia, and of course, ethnic linguistic groups that we are going to find in this beautiful country we know as Eritrea. Now, Eritrea also has these regions. If you ask me, the Northern Red Sea region, and Anseba, Garababaka, and of course the Southern Red Sea region and the others. Those are the regions of Ethiopia. You can see Ethiopia right there, Sudan up there, the Red Sea, and of course we see the United States of Eritrea right there. The Kashetan, Serahe, Akizaguzan. We have the Sahel, Baka, Dankara, and Akel Guzan, among other regions that make this beautiful country, a beautiful stretch of Eritrea. Now, let us look at the country statistics. Population of Eritrea by 2022 was 600 million people. 3,600,000 people. You can round it up and say 3,700,000 1,000 people. The population growth rate was 1.7% annual growth rate. And of course, age dependence is high at 76%. Urban population is 42%. It means many people actually are going to the urban, but also in the areas that are rural, there are people there. Infant mortality rate in Ethiopia is high. Infant mortality rate in Ethiopia is high at 28 per 1,000 births. That is threatening. And of course, life expectancy at birth is always 66 years. Now, in terms of age distribution, total population of Ethiopia, in terms of that, we see that majority of people in Ethiopia, like the rest of Africa, are between the ages of 15 and 64. Note that about Africa. Majority of the people in Africa are between the ages of 15 and 64. In Ethiopia, they are 56%. Now, the other age group, which is also big, is the ages between 0 to 14 years, that is 39%. Now, those above 65 years are only 4%. It means the population is much younger in Ethiopia. We look at electricity there. Electricity, Ethiopia has a bit of production. I told you it has a bit of energy, but not so much. And consumption, right there, not so much. It doesn't export much of the energy and doesn't import much. They simply get enough for themselves. Now, in terms of technology, airports are 13, cellular phones about 500,000, 6,000, 500,000 telephones there, 500,000 of course. Highway coverage is about 16,000 kilometers. Internet users about 69,000 people there. Railways cover about 306 kilometers per 2018 data. Telephones about 66,000 in Ethiopia. Of course, this data can be changed because years have gone by. Now, in terms of geography and environment, remember I told you Ethiopia is located in the Eastern Africa, bordering the Red Sea between Djibouti and Sudan. Total area is 117,600 square kilometers. Land area covered that. Water area is quite big at 16,600 square kilometers. The coastline of Ethiopia is one of the biggest coastline in Africa. It is 2,234 kilometers. The coastline alone is big. Now, climate is hot, dry desert, and sweep along the Red Sea, and cooler, wetter in the Central Highlands, and of course up to 61 degrees. Okay. Now, in terms of rainfall, of course, it has rainfall right there between June and September, and there are semi-arid water hills and of course lowlands. In terms of terrain, Eritrea is dominated by extension of Ethiopian north-southern trending highlands, descending on the east to the coastal desert plain on the northwest to highly hilly terrain, and on the far left. Now, sources, of course, I get this information from the World Bank. As always, the World Bank gives me the best information on countries in Africa. People of Ethiopia, remember, I told you that Ethiopia has no big difference in terms of people composition with Ethiopia. Eritrea and Ethiopia are sisters and brothers. Look at the people, happy people, beautiful people in Eritrea. I should tell you, yes, beautiful people right there in Eritrea there. Now, that is Samara and the photos. As we see these photos, then it's going to be showing the photos, and I'm going to be taking you through the history of Ethiopia. As we see these photos, then slowly I want to take them through the history of Ethiopia. Now, we are saying that Ethiopia is a rich country, which is having access to the Red Sea. But this one also has made it so much available for invaders. For example, the Ottoman Empire in 1557 attacked Eritrea and occupied it, made it one of its colonies. And the Ottoman Empire colonized Eritrea for 300 years. As you see those photos of Samara, the capital city of Eritrea, I want to give you a brief history where this country comes from. For 300 years, the Ottoman Empire ruled Eritrea. That's why you see a bit of Arabic blood in people in Eritrea. Now, in Later on, of course, we see, and between 1882 to 1941, Eritrea was colonized by Italians. It had been taken over by the Egyptian Khedives, and then the Italians took over from the Turks. Also, the Turks took over Eritrea, and of course, we see the British took over Eritrea between 1941 to 1952. The British were ruling Eritrea. In 1840, Egypt occupied the lowland part of Eritrea. In 1872, Egyptians displaced the Turks and ruled Eritrea, covering the Red Sea. And of course, during the period of 1872 to 1882, Eritrea was under the colonial rule of the Egyptians. Massawa and other regions along the sea coast were under the Egyptians. Now, Eritrea was again taken over by Ethiopians following the Treaty of Wishale on May 2nd, 1889. That pact was signed in a place called Wishale in Ethiopia between the Italians and Menelik II of Ethiopia. Remember, Menelik II of Ethiopia defeated the Italians at the Battle of Adowa. Then there was this treaty that was signed, and Ethiopia took over Eritrea on May 2nd, 1889. Now, that was Menelik of Ethiopia taking over Eritrea in 1889. Now, we see that, of course, territories of Bogosi, Hamasen, and Akare Guzai, modern Eritrea, northern Tigray, were taken over by Ethiopia in exchange of a sum of 30,000 muskets, among other things, which were given to the Italians. So we see that Ethiopia began colonizing, occupying Eritrea. If you didn't know that in Africa, there were African countries which colonized others, now you know that Ethiopia, in fact, colonized, occupied, took over Eritrea. Interesting history right there. Later on, we see the brutal fascist in the Italians. Remember, Mussolini was a brutal rogue, a fascist Italian called Mussolini, took over a bit of revenge on Ethiopia. And we remember that the fascist Italians imposed harsh rule that stressed the political and racial spirit of Italians in Eritrea. Eritrea was again under these Italians for some time. And of course, in 1938, it was even worse. They were having been taken over by the Italians. Now, Ethiopia again gained control of Eritrea from the Italians, and Eritrea fought back. Eritrea fought back so hard. 30 years of fighting. Eritrea was fighting for their independence, and they got their independence in 1993. Eritrea fought back. They got their independence in 1993. And of course, in the late 1950s, Eritreans began organizing an armed rebellion from the base in Cairo. They went to Egypt, organized a rebellion, and then came back, fought for their independence. In 1962, Ethiopia Emperor Haile Selassie dissolved the federation and annexed Eritrea, triggering a war that would last 3 decades. 1962, it was Haile Selassie who caused this war. And next, Eritrea went, people went into Egypt, organized themselves, came back and fought for 30 years. They were fighting Ethiopians. You can imagine Africans fighting against Africans, Africans fighting against each other for independence. Ethiopia had taken over Eritrea. Eritrea went into a rebellion for 30 years. They were fighting the invaders. Between 1961 to 1991, it was a war, serious war, where many people were lost. And of course, we can say that Eritrea has some of the best armies in Africa. Not that Eritrea has some of the best armies in Africa. And of course, they may be few, but have been highly, very effective. In fact, they say the Ethiopian army is about 45,000 in number. Eritrean army is about 45,000 soldiers. They also have a reserve force of about 250 soldiers in reserve. So Eritrea has always been fighting against occupation. From who? From Ethiopians. Isn't it interesting that Eritreans are fighting against Ethiopians, fellow Africans, terrorizing fellow Africans, and they are fighting for 30 years to get their independence from Ethiopians. From 1961 to 1991, they were fighting brutally fighting. And because of that, Eritrea is known as the country with so many refugees in the world. Eritrea has some of the highest number of refugees in the world because they have been under war for a long time. Wherever you go, you will find refugees from Eritrea. Why? There's been a war in their country. Now, because of that, Eritrea becomes a hard country to live in. Beautiful country, but always under war. Let us look at the leader of Eritrea as the last photo right there now. The man is called Isaias Afwerki. This man has been a fighter. This man has resisted Ethiopians. This Eritrean guy here, Afwerki, Isaias Afwerki has been a resistant of Ethiopia. The president of Eritrea and the incumbent one now resisting to regain sanity for his nation. The nation is poor, not because they are poor in terms of resources, but because they've been always fighting against Ethiopians. They are always under attack. They fight back, always under attack. This guy is leading Eritrea to freedom. They may be independent, but Ethiopians keep on provoking them. They keep on fighting back. Eritrea is one of the countries in Africa with the highest number of refugees in the world. They're always running because Ethiopians are always attacking them. Yet this country is peaceful, but we cannot recommend you going to Eritrea because it's not stable. It's not stable. They are always under a threat of a terror attack. So we want to call upon Ethiopia and Eritrea to accept peace, negotiate peace. Yes, there is peace on paper, but I want to see real peace existing between Ethiopia and Eritrea because you guys are brothers and sisters. You better let Ethiopians be, you better let Eritreans be in peace. Thank you so much for watching. It is Humans TV Africa. We want to encourage you to please subscribe, like, love, comment, and tell us your thoughts about this and all our programs. See you in the next one.